Coming to you live from the News Hub, this is Midday Live. My name is Nanikria Mensah Abrampa. Can we now go for the headlines for the afternoon? Right, so coming up this afternoon, one student of Timpani Senior High School in the Upper East region has died of meningitis, 3news.com has gathered. And all is set for ruling New Patriotic Party's Extraordinary National Delegates Conference in Kumasi on Sunday. Also coming up, rehabilitation works on Western and Eastern rail lines at various levels of completion and will be ready for use by the first quarter of 2018. And later on the foreign front, the United Nations Children's Fund says more than half of South Sudan's children have suffered abuse, trauma and hunger over the past 4 years of war. Why, thanks for staying with us. And on to our very first story for the afternoon. The ruling New Patriotic Party will on Sunday, December 17, hold an extraordinary National Delegates Conference. The conference is to consider various proposed amendments to the party's constitution. Now, the conference comes on the back of the annual National Delegates Conference in August this year. And at that conference, various proposals were made for amendments to the party's constitution. Over 5,000 delegates, including founding fathers and patrons of the party, members of parliament on the party's ticket, metropolitan, municipal and district chief executives and national officers of the party are expected at the conference. And we're going more into this particular conference scheduled for Sunday. Let's speak with Richard Ahiagba, who is the Director of Communications with the NPP Chicago Branch, USA. He joins us via Skype. Good afternoon to you, sir, and thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Now, when you look at concerns raised, foreign branches have raised some issues with portions of proposed amendments. What specifically is your concern about the dual citizens aspect? Tell us.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Take this opportunity to congratulate our party and the membership here in Ashanti region for doing a good work. We have just drove past the grounds where the conference is going to be had tomorrow. And people are really hard at work, and preparations are far advanced. And we look forward to a very successful conference tomorrow. Now, to your question, I think the amendment, the proposed amendment, was designed to somehow disadvantage people with dual citizenship from holding party positions in our party. Or for running for any executive position in the party. And I think at this point, we've had a very extensive engagement with the party leadership. And it seems at this point, I can announce to you that there is a tentative understanding that going forward, that amendment will not be brought for consideration. That's my understanding with consultations that I've had with leadership. We're very much happy about that development. So at this point, I think that we can put that discussion to rest, knowing that that amendment has effectively been considered as one that will not come up for consideration at the conference tomorrow.
Right. Now, another issue I understand you've raised concern to, or you are against, is the directive by the National Council that MMDCs as well as other regional executives wishing to contest against the incumbent MP should resign their positions 3 years in advance to the general elections. What are the concerns you have against this particular directive?
Well, that's I don't think that we need to make any constitutional adjustments if we want to have people do their work. I think that amendment is essentially trying to ensure that, DCEs and MCEs are working well, and they're not undermining each other when one is seeking to run for the position of the other 3 years or 4 years down the line. I think that there are better ways to do that. And the ways to do that is for everybody to understand that the work they're called to do, or the work they put themselves up to do, is to serve the people. We need to focus on the service aspect of the job, not on the people in the job. If we do that, we would not need to have people resign 3 years in advance. Suppose I am an MCE or DCE. I have a specific job description to the constituents or to the district that I oversee. There shouldn't be any compelling reason for a constitutional amendment for me to be able to do my work, so I don't undermine the work of the MP of my constituency. So I think that this is one of those amendments like the one we talked about before. There is no compelling reason for any such thing to be done. If anything at all, it cripples us, it makes our relationship more cumbersome and unproductive. We need to learn to work together as an MP, as an MCE, or DCE. We need to work together, understanding that our work is not for ourselves, but it's to the service of the people we're called to serve. If we focus on the job and the people we're here to serve, I don't think we'll have a need to amend our constitution in order to allow people to work together peacefully.
Mr. Ahiagba, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Richard Ahiagba is the Director of Communications at the Chicago branch of the New Patriotic Party, talking about the Extraordinary National Delegates Conference scheduled for Sunday, December 17. Well, joining us on the line this afternoon is John Boadu, who is the Acting General Secretary of the ruling New Patriotic Party, the NPP. Good afternoon, Mr. Boadu, and thank you for your time. Hello, Mr. Boadu. Right. Can you update us on preparations for Sunday's conference? Hello, John Boadu. Right, so as we make efforts to reach John Boadu, the ruling New Patriotic Party will hold the Extraordinary National Delegates Conference, and we're joining John Boadu, who is the Acting General Secretary of the NPP, on the phone lines now to brief us a bit of preparations so far. Good afternoon to you, Mr. Boadu. Hello, Mr. Boadu.
Yes, hello. Yeah,
right, thank you for joining us on Midday Live.
Hello?
Mr. Boadu, if you can hear me, can you update us on preparations so far for Sunday's conference?
Yeah, thank you very much. All is set for the Extraordinary National Delegate Conference tomorrow in Kumasi. All the preparations have been done. These are now, some of it have even arrived already. And we are looking forward for a fruitful delegation that at the end of the day will strengthen the operations of the party. So we are really set for tomorrow's program.
Now, we just had the opportunity to speak with the Director of Communications at the Chicago branch, who is Richard Ahiagba, who have raised some concerns, talking about the foreign branches on some proposals, like not holding office while a dual citizen of the MMDCs who want to contest sitting MPs to quit 3 years to 2020 polls. What assurances do you have for some of these branches?
We need to understand what the constitution of our party is and how practice is. This is an extraordinary national delegates conference with an agenda. The agenda is to receive a report by an ad hoc committee that concises the application for amendment that was brought by members of our party, and to adopt this report. That's exactly what we are going to do. Resolutions are not going to be discussed there. So if somebody is not happy about some resolution passed by National Council, there are avenues to address that. People should not confuse issues. I think that if you're a member of the party, you must know what it is really. We are not going to discuss resolutions. of National Council. No.
Could you, just before you go, brief us of what exactly to expect tomorrow, as you saying that this is exactly what you're going to do tomorrow pertaining to the conference?
What we expect is that all the applications for amendments that were brought in by members of our party will be discussed, and the opportunity will be given to proponents of those proposals to push for a reason why they think that some aspects of the Constitution need to be amended. Then it will be put to vote, and at the end of the day, the decisions of conference is final in this case. So that's exactly what we are going to do. So there will be discussion. So if people are not happy about some proposal by some individuals, they cannot also refuse to acknowledge the right of individuals to also put in proposals. It is up to conference to accept or reject any proposal brought. Now, I must also repeat that it is not an avenue to discuss resolution, of which the NMDC won extension of all officers of our party's term of office for 3 months, and those resolutions are not going to be discussed.
John Boydu, we are grateful for your time. John Boydu is the Acting General Secretary of the ruling New Patriotic Party, and the conference, we understand, is to consider various proposed amendments to the party's constitution, holding Sunday, December 17. Let's move away from that to some more issues this afternoon. And the Railway Development Minister, Joe Ghartey, has indicated rehabilitation works on both the Western and Eastern rail lines are at various levels of completion, adding that both will be ready for use by the first quarter of 2018. Selom Amenya spoke with Joe Ghartey and CEO of the Ghana Investments Ghana investment consultant Adamu Mohammed.
What do you seek to achieve with this dialogue?
Very good question. I mean, like I said, when you are charting a path, those behind you will know whether your path is crooked or not. We are going at a high speed. We are going at a high speed. Every day things are happening. And it's very good that these brothers and sisters of us from Ghana in the diaspora have come back and are going to sit with us, and we are going to do a critical analysis of what we've done so far and what we are going to do for next year. I mean, they couldn't have come at a better time. And so what we hope to achieve is the beginning of a continual relationship which is mutually beneficial between us and Ghanaian professionals overseas who have expertise in the rail sector. Remember that our rail sector collapsed virtually, so we don't have that much expertise locally. But these are people who have worked on recent projects in the UK, for example, and so therefore they can continuously give us advice, and they come with a variety of experience. Civil engineers, lawyer, people in advertising, signaling, and I'm so excited. The afternoon session will be great.
All right, let me turn to Mr. Adamu Mohammed, who is the Chief Executive of GHIGL. Let me find out from you, what informed the decision to want to come back to help the rail sector?
I think when we tend to visit, we see certain things and we ask ourselves, because some infrastructure like the roads, and we tend to question whether these have been delivered properly, because one can just see certain flaws within the design itself, because with infrastructure development or to construct an infrastructure, the ideas has to start from the concept stage. So what we want to do is not to come back in 10 years or 20 years' time when the railway industry or the infrastructures are in place, and then we stand back and start pointing fingers. Oh, they should have done this, they should have done that. We don't want to do that. So we want to come at the front end to provide the necessary support that the ministry needs to be able to tell them from the concept, critically analyze the master plan, the designs that they are receiving, and also advise them whether, as the minister rightly said, they are on a crooked path or they are on a straight path. So we are here to bring our expertise that we've gained for a combined expertise of 200 years. We are here to bring that expertise on board to ensure that we get a safe, reliable operable railway.
All right, thank you very much. But before we go, I want to find out, when are we going to see the new train on the track?
Well, I was talking to one of the potential investors, and I said to him, for example, on the Eastern Line, that we are not going to, when we are negotiating, we are not going to wait until the train reaches Kumasi or the track reaches Kumasi before we launch the service. I mean, if they reach Koforidua, we should be able to launch a service from Accra to Koforidua as they continue. And he agreed with me, because if it's BOT, they want to make their revenue back. So why should they wait to finish the whole track before? Chief, 2019, 2020, me and you will be sitting on a train, God willing.
Well, you had a sector minister there, Mr. Joe Ghartey. 2019, 2020 will definitely sit on a new train.
Right, my colleague Solomon Menya there having an interaction with the Railway Development Minister Joe Ghartey, who has indicated rehabilitation works on both the Western and Eastern rail lines will be ready for completion first quarter of 2018. Now let's move on to issues on energy, and the Chief Executive Officer of Bui Power Authority, Fred Oware, on Monday indicated plans are underway to merge the Bui Power Authority with the VRA. But our question this afternoon is it a good move? Well, let's speak this afternoon with Kojo Poku, who is an energy expert. Good afternoon to you, Kojo, and thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. How are you?
Great, I'm doing good too. Now, let's look at the measure. Do you think is a good decision, bringing these two companies together?
To understand the reasoning, you need to look at the overall restructuring of the energy sector. Okay, what is going on is that the minister's focus is to try and have thermal and hydro separated. Okay, so you're now looking at a situation where VRA is being split into VRA hydro and VRA thermal, where VRA thermal will deal with all the thermal plants that VRA is involving. Then VRA hydro, which is POM and Akosombo, will now deal solely with hydro. Now, we know that Bui Power is only the Bui plant that we have, which is the hydro plant at Bui. So now what the minister's thinking is that let's now bring those two together. So it will not be VRA as it is now, but it's VRA hydro and VRA hydro and Bui Power would merge up and form one hydro authority. In that reform, there's also going to be a renewable authority that will promote the implementation of renewable power in the country. So it's an overall reform going on in the sector that one has to understand why there's a thinking or the policy to merge VRA hydro with Bui Power.
So you think it's prudence for the measure to take place?
Well, it really concentrates resources. You know what I mean? You don't, Bui Power, in its own wisdom, wants to go into other areas like solar to complement the hydro they have. VRA also wants to go into solar to complement. So you realize that both of them are going on the same trajectory. One of the things that's also going on is that most private companies, like I have a company called Small Hydro, that we are trying to develop small, like 25, 30 megawatts on the Ankobra River. There is a directive now that we should now collaborate with Bui Power and subsequently with the hydro authority that will be now formed, which will be between the VRA hydro and Bui hydro, to now monitor all these new small mini hydros that want to come on in the country. So it's basically pulling your resources together and make it more focused and concentrated. That way, you get the best results. If Bui Power sits somewhere and VRA hydro sits somewhere and do independent things, government is basically employing people who are doing diverse, and they might work against each other. So it's best to bring them together and concentrate the resources. So it's an overall reform that is happening in the sector, and it's only for the benefit of Ghana if it's implemented well.
Kojo, once upon a time, we had all these energy companies merged together with VRA. At a point, we saw ECG separating and also Gridco coming on its own. And you can tell that we've been doing well in that aspect. So why would we want to merge again?
Okay,
if we had successes
if you look at what you just explained, it is basically making sure that things are focused. When we had the whole entity together, there was transmission, there was distribution, and there was generation.
Right.
What happened was that the split now made sure that there's focus. Gridco was split to handle transmission. So there's focus.
So there was focus.
Yes.
So why are we merging?
No,
VRA?
we are bringing focus. Basically, you are taking away VRA, which is one entity, doing thermal and hydro. So you are splitting VRA into two: VRA hydro, VRA thermal. Okay.
Okay.
Then VRA hydro will now merge with BU Power, which are both doing the same thing,
right,
generating electricity using hydropower. Then with that resources together, they can now help smaller companies like myself, who are also trying to do 25 megawatts there and 30 megawatts where across the country. So it is not bringing, it's not mixing generation with transmission and distribution. So ECG is out, they are doing distribution. Gridco is out, they are doing transmission. Now you have generation. In generation, like I said earlier, there is hydro and there's thermal. Split that so that you have more focus.
So the key word has to do with generation.
Yes.
Now let's look at how this will solidify the country's hydropower generation as we're focusing on that.
Right. Like I said to you, the two are the main powers in the country. So hydro, in terms of BU and Pong and Akosombo, are our main hydro powers. So if they now merge and they come together, they will have a much more solid technology in terms of what, because Akosombo is quite old, BU is quite new, so there will be an exchange of technology there. There will be expertise coming together to basically have a more experienced hands on the job. Then they can now help smaller companies that want to now develop in conjunction with partnership with government, or the authority in this place will be representing government. So they can now partner smaller companies like myself who wants to now do 30 megawatts, 20 megawatts, or even 10 megawatts on small streams and rivers across the country. So it's together we stand, divided we fall, sort of thing that the minister is trying to do. So I think it's good. But you see, the caution here is that if it's done well, see, most of these things on paper sounds good, but in an implementation of it does not necessarily.
It's different.
Thank you. So if, that's why I keep using the word, if it's done well. So yes, the thinking is right, but it's the implementation that some of us want to be part of.
So talking about the implementation, what will be the implications if it's done well on paper? Let's look at the pros and cons.
Well, then you now have a bloated company that is not basically doing well. In divide and rule, you have BU, which is more focused on BU power. So it's small, lean, and they are doing their work. You have Akosombo, VRA, that is leaner, small, doing their work. If you bring the two together, you form a bigger company. Okay, so with a bigger company, if the implementation is not done right, then you have a lot of laxity and people not doing the work they're supposed to do. So that is why I'm saying that if you bring the two companies together, in Ghana, we are trying to promote jobs. We are not trying to make people redundant. So you don't foresee that if the two companies come together, they would now sack people or make them redundant. It's not going to happen.
But it's inevitable.
Well, no, not necessarily. You see, in what you find out is that in some of these companies, the head office staff are probably a lot more than the field staff.
So are you suggesting there will not be any job cuts merging these two companies?
I don't think the government, from what I know and from what I have heard, is very prudent in securing people's job, like we've heard from the ECG concession going forward, where government has come out to now make sure that people's job are secure for the next indefinite foreseeable future, unless you do not perform. Okay, right. And all Ghanaians going into some of these mergers and these work should have the back of their mind, as much as government is securing your work, it doesn't mean that go and lax. We have a way of approaching work lackadaisically. We don't care. We do it as Ghanaian job. We don't. So if you go to the work and you don't perform, you'll be sacked. Okay, but my point is we should not create a monopoly in the hydro sector that is not good for purpose. It should be more leaner and more focused, and that is what I'm saying if it's done well.
Kojo, we are grateful for your time this afternoon.
Thank you very much.
Kojo Poku is energy expert, and we're talking about the plans underway to merge the Bui Power Authority and the VRA. We appreciate your time. Let's look at some more stories this afternoon. And scrap dealers at Agbogloshi in Accra Metropolis continue to use fire to extract copper and inhale toxic gases at the expense of their lives. Some say they are not willing to quit the job in spite of the health hazards.
The scrap business, perceived as one of the hazardous jobs, has been in existence in Accra for more than 2 decades. People who engage in this business roam in parts of the capital to gather pieces of metals regarded as waste in homes.
The shoulders of the Korle Lagoon at Agbogloshi in Accra
is serving as a hub for more than 2,000 scrap dealers who have come from various places to work in order to earn a living. Some of these people are often looked down upon in society because of their work. In spite of the risky nature of what they do, some of them have vowed not to leave this work because it is very lucrative. It is the proceeds we get from the scrap business that we use to cater for our wives and parents up north. Some of us have also built houses for ourselves through this business. They provide raw materials to feed the Tema Steel Company. At the Agbogbloshie hub, more than 2,000 registered individuals ply their businesses here. Copper is the highly sought-after commodity, especially in electronic waste gadgets. After days of searching for the waste electronic appliances, the scrap dealers return to extract the copper and other metals from them. In the course of the extraction process, the scrap dealers inhale toxic gases generated as a result of burning of the copper. The activities pollute the surrounding air and also create discomfort for residents living nearby. They acknowledge the health risk, but say they have no alternative.
We forsake this thing, we give it at Fed, but we don't see that at Fed. If somebody comes down right now, it will affect that person. But you every time you do it for inside, you don't go feel see that.
Most of them work without safety gears. 28-year-old Nigerian national Emmanuel Osi has been in the scrap business for 4 years. He has employed one Ghanaian.
The job there, you can do anything you want to do. If you want to achieve anything, you can achieve from it because we make a lot of money from it.
They want support to expand their business. The scrap dealers will need more support to safeguard their health. Stanley Nibleu, TV3 News, Agbogbloshie.
Stanley Blow there with that report. You're watching Midday Live, and some news just in. The chairman of the People's National Convention, the PNC, Bernard Mona, was arrested Saturday morning by the police for engaging in an act. He was bundled together with a security analyst, Ibad Ibrahim, and whisked to the Nima police station in Accra, where they were detained. The two were picked up among a crowd that had gathered at the Kaukudi Park at Kanda near Accra Girls' School to rally in support of the volatility in neighboring Togo. So I'll be getting you more on this particular one that has come up as and when the updates unfold. Let's still stay with issues on security because the Accra Region Police Command has taken over investigations into a police corporal who has been assisting robbers with guns for operations. Corporal Raymond Amegashi of the Tema Region SWAT team, apart from supplying guns to armed robbers, also go on operations with them. Now, concerns have been raised about the fact that some of the watchmen are now joining the bad nuts in society to harm those they are supposed to protect. And joining us this afternoon is Adam Bona via Skype, who is a security and safety expert. He joins us via Skype. Good afternoon to you, Mr. Bona, and thank you for your time.
Good afternoon, and good afternoon to your cherished viewers. Yes.
Right.
Good afternoon.
Now, some will say that this is just a drop in the ocean, but should we be worried with this incident still unfolding?
Yes, we should. We have to be very, very worried. I'm sure you are aware that somewhere last month, the recruitment exercise currently ongoing by the Ghana Police Service, they are mandated to recruit about 2,000 of our young, people into the police service. And, if you know, somewhere last year into this year, some recruits who were actually undergoing training were dismissed for obvious challenge here or the other. And so we have every reason to be worried, because these are the people who we pay and we buy them guns and ammunition to protect us. And some of these people, I wouldn't say most, but some of these people, I would say, come through the back door. If you go, the only thing I think the police probably is not doing right is telling us who these people are, telling us, unveiling, taking off the veil to tell us how these people got recruited. And I have information. Most of these people were recruited through the back door. When I say through the back door, some of them not really qualified, as you may put it. Some of them would have been recruited through some DCE, some MP, some minister, some assemblyman. And so these people, literally, we are at their mercy. And I do also know as a fact that most of these miscreants who call themselves police officers, shameful police officers, own their own AK-47s. And the only institution that is mandated to carry this, deadly assault rifle is the Ghana Police Service in the country. I mean, civilians are not allowed to have them. And if you go to a police station, there are various armories, but these police officers, some of them do have them. But it has to do with proper monitoring. We need to probably urge the Inspector General of Police to go on with the reformation it's bringing. And probably, I don't know how he's going to do it, because there's too much political interference when it comes to
Mr. Bonner, you just raised an issue of the police administration going around some reforms, talking about rebranding to, let's say, an international level. What suggestions would you put across as this rebranding is going on in the police?
One of the things we need to know as a people, as citizens of Ghana, is how are these officers recruited? It has to be, as much as possible, very, very, very transparent. If the process is not transparent, and I know that this person got recruited into the service through the back door, then chances are that I could also get recruited through the back door. The other thing has to do with, ensuring that there is resources put into the Ghana Police Service. We need to retool them. Go to most police stations. They don't have the vehicles. Even if they have the vehicles are misused. You see most police officers, instead of being in traffic, you see them literally going through traffic. For them, they are the laws. And I'd say that until we put in, if you go to, I won't take you too far, go to probably Britain, go to Germany, a police officer who is on the beat is those who are monitoring him know the guy, how many miles you are doing every day. But over here, we know that some of them are involved in Langar's issue. And the reason has to do with improper monitoring procedures. And therefore, one would want to say that for the police to rebrand, they have to get, because, it's a service. It's not a force. We call them the Ghana Police Service. It's not the armed forces, it's a service. And so we expect them to undergo some form of customer service training. You go into a police station, you expect the counter NCO to speak to you. When I say the counter NCO, the persons, one of them at the charge office, who is a non-commissioned officer, is supposed to be taking your statement here and there. Sometimes, some of them very rude, they speak anyhow, not all of them, some of them. And so the way they are trained, yesteryears when the British came in with the idea of policing into this country, they came with teaching us, regimental policing. Today, we still have our police officers living in barracks. And so that mentality of force to be able to achieve whatever, aim and ambitions they have is still there. And so until we get them out of the barrack settings and, inculcate, imbibe in them the habit of knowing that they are supposed to be assisting civilians and not, brutalizing them until such a time that we are able to do that. We won't move away these issues of armed robbery, because then they wear uniforms. You cannot question a police officer who probably has strayed into an area. You question him, the next thing is he's going to start probably issuing you with some slaps. And so until such a time that our police officers are trained to probably deal with civilians as those they've been employed to take care of, we are never going to. An officer was arrested in Wa just recently, aiding and abetting selling of narcotic drugs. And this is just about a day or 2 days ago. And when is this going to stop?
Now, Mr. Bonner, let's move away from issues of Ghana, please, and let's talk about the ISIS and matters arising, the African Union's top security officials has warned that up to 6,000 Africans who fought for the Islamic State IS militant group in Iraq and Syria could return home and threaten the continent's security. Now, the AU's Commissioner for Peace and Security, Ismail Shergi, said African nations needed to coordinate intelligence activities to counter the threat. Tens of thousands of foreigners joined IS after it declared a caliphate in 2014 and captured territory in the two neighboring states. And Mr. Bona, if you're still on the line, are fears of the African Union's top security officials justified? Tell us.
Well, one would say the African Union probably is noted for rhetoric, just talking and doing nothing. I am an African, but I would want to ask this simple question. Are they aware of my existence on the African continent? They are not aware of it. I mean, you and I know that just neighboring Cote d'Ivoire, you had Macron flying in just recently, and he brought together a couple of our leaders. And one of the reasons why he came down was to tell the Ivorian leaders, we are going to give you about $110, $120 million to, lay off 4,000 of your military officers. And you and I know that just across the road in Somalia, we had a military defector who actually bombed recently. I mean, he defected and took up arms against Somalia. And so if the AU would stop their rhetoric and, begin to, conscientize us, the issue is bigger than the AU sees it. AU, I must be very honest, I don't know whether the AU is still relevant because, you see, we have so many American soldiers on our continent. We have so many European, call them the French military officers on our continent, more than we have AU military officers on our continent. And so where do we then stand fighting ISIS? The issue with ISIS, not that they are returning or they are going to return, they are already with us.
Are you suggesting that our intelligence sharing is not intact, as I would put it?
When was the last time, I'm not suggesting, I'm just telling you, I'm not suggesting, I'm saying this on authority. When was the last time AU, shared any, AU said through our intelligence sharing, network, we have been able to apprehend this, we have been able to apprehend this. You've never heard of it before. We have people, we have, nomadic herdsmen straying into this country to torture our farmers, rape them, do all sorts of things. And so we don't actually have... So
it means we can't do anything about these threats. Is that it? We can't do anything about these threats.
As Africans, I would say that as individual countries and citizens of Africa, what we can do to assist is individually try to share some of this piece of information, intelligence sharing with probably the authorities. But as AU, I don't see how AU is going to probably galvanize support and bring us together, put in structures to get us, share intelligence to fight terrorism. Already we have them here. Mali is bombed, Cote d'Ivoire, Burkina Faso, go to the Sahelian region. It has to do with unemployment. A lot of our young people are unemployed, and monies that are coming in is rather to get the military, the US military, French military, instead of building capacity, instead of building institutions, instead of getting most of our young people into employable, organizations. And so the truth is that until the AU sits, take a back seat, one step back and say that, this is how we are going to fight terrorism. It's going to be pretty difficult.
It's going to be pretty difficult for the AU. Thank you so much, Adam Bona, security and safety experts there, dealing with issues on security, talking about the Ghana Police Service as well as AU and matters arising. We are grateful for your time, Mr. Bona. And we're taking a breather now. We'll return with more on Midday Live. Stay with us. All right, thanks for staying with us on Midday Live. Now, the Senior Minister, Yaw Osafo Maafo, has said government will appoint a new Director General of Education who will focus on vocational and technical education. According to the minister plans were well advanced to ensure that technical and vocational education and training was well managed. Let's speak with Peter Partey-Anti, who is Executive Director for the Institute for Educational Studies. Good afternoon to you, Mr. Anti, and thanks for your time.
Good afternoon.
Now, what do you make of this new proposal on board from government?
Thank you very much. I think that getting to the 2016 election, one of the issues that was raised by the former government was an appointment of a deputy minister for TVET. And during that time, what we said as an institute for education studies was that it was not necessary, was not important at that time, because that particular section of our education is going through tremendous challenges. We made point of issues such as the level of progression that people who undergo technical educations are facing. We talked about infrastructure challenges. We talked about outmoded curriculum. We talked about even lack of inadequate personnel to handle this teaching TVET. So we were thinking that going forward, since the government has started doing some changes within the technical and vocational institute sector, it would be appropriate that the system is allowed to flow. Because recently, the Minister of Education just inaugurated a 14-member committee, what we call the board for the TVET, and they are supposed to handle the affairs of that particular sector. Now, going to appoint a Director General for TVET will mean that we should have to revise the Ghana Education Act, Act 506, which indicate that there shall be only one Director General of Education of the Ghana Education Service. So, if the senior minister is saying that there's going to be two people manning the education sector, I mean being Director Generals, then it means that they have to take the act, they have to update the act to accommodate that. But we think that the focus should not be on that. The focus should be on looking at the challenges that the technical and vocational education is facing in Ghana and address them.
Okay, we are grateful for your time, Mr. Anti. Peter Partey-Anti is Executive Director of the Institute for Education Studies, who believes that this new appointment of a Director General of Education is really not necessary at the moment, considering the crisis that the Institute is facing. Let's move on now to some international news, and the United Nations Children's Fund says more than half of South Sudan's children have suffered abuse, trauma and hunger over the past 4 years of war. Now, the report is titled Childhood Under Attack and was released on the 4th anniversary of the start of the war. Now, according to the reports, more than 2,300 children have been killed or injured since South Sudan erupted into conflict in December 2013. And we're looking at one of our headline stories now. A student of Timpani Senior High School in the Upper East region has died of meningitis. 3news.com has gathered. Now, the student was admitted at the Presbyterian Hospital in Boko on Wednesday, December 13, in a critical condition. TV3's regional correspondent Mohammed Rabiu Tanko will be giving us more detail to this particular one in subsequent bulletins. So that will do for the international news as well as this updates. We have entertainment news now. And talking entertainment, Kwewu have for years hosted the entertained multitudes during the Easter festivities. Well, Kwewu will once again come alive this Xmas as 30 hitmakers head off the top of the mountain to lighting up the Xmas.
No doubt, Kwewu becomes the liveliest place in Ghana during the Easter festivities. The narrative might soon take yet another twist. For the first time, 30 top performers will be climbing up the mountain to make the Xmas a memorable one. Showstoppers including Abranti Amachidede, Jeduble Ambule, Shatawale, Stonebwoy, and Kofi Kenata will headline a historic 3-day concert to be hosted in Kou Apetifi. The concert, which also headlines Bonya hitmakers, Wuta, is expected to promote culture and boost the local economy.
The Kou Music Festival is an opportunity for business creation for the people. Young girls are going to get shops, are going to be opened, businesses, there will be employment, there will be so many other things that we are creating. Over 20,000 people that are going to thrown to Abetifi High Street.
The Made in Kwewu Republic Music Festival kickstarts on December 24 with a night for the old-timers and ends on Boxing Day.
The 24th night is the old-timers night. Starting with Abranti Amachi Dede, live, Jeduble Ambule, A.B. Krentel. I mean, live music. We want people to feel the traditional high life music because Ghana is known for high life music. So what we have called a Boxing Day is a hip life night, live on top of the mountain. It is Stonebwoy versus Shatawale live. Okay. It is Ebony doing her own thing all together.
Where will you be spending your Xmas?
For me, I don't know what anybody will be doing in Accra for Christmas. But I don't know why. Bright Nanamfu, all of you there, Natalie Fort, Alfredo Kansi, and all of you. This is an event all of you must gather. Bright Nanamfu, you are my school father. In fact, if you don't come, the school authorities will write a personal letter to see you for not coming to Kwewu.
Bryce is in trouble there. Well, it's not just Kwewu Easter, but it's Kwewu Xmas. So let's see how that turns out. Also, Media General is currently enjoying its end-of-year employee games and bash, talking about team integrity, team professionalism, team community. We'll be telling you more in our subsequent bulletins who exactly is bringing the main trophy home. So stick and stay with TV3 right here later tonight. But that will do for Midday Live this afternoon. My name is Nanikia Mensah Brampa. Do enjoy the rest of the afternoon.